I'll say this. This is another reason why, and people are really going to dislike me saying this, I'm starting to lean toward class being a bigger issue than race. When I say that, I don't mean a more sinister issue. Race and racism and sexism are the most sinister demons in America by far. But class penetrates even inside of intraracial bonds. There is a gigantic problem with classism and class power within Black people. And the more money that I'm starting to see get thrown into the Black community, the more we're starting to see this push-pull between the haves and have-nots that threatens our ability to coalition build inside of Black America. Like, to me, I see Black people that are choosing privilege, money, and power over their Blackness every day.
Sure. All right, Shalom. This is the brother Nahalia from the GMS Orlando camp. I want to start off by giving all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rokakodash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, who are the elders of Yasher Allah. And a sincere salutation to all you Akim, who are preaching this word and believing this word, and to the Akwath who are believing this word in all truth and in sincerity. Yahweh is the name of the one they ignorantly call God. Yahweh Shai is the name of the one they ignorantly call Jesus. Bahashem is in the name. Rokah is spirit. Kodash is holy. Akyam is brothers. Akwath is sisters. Shalom means peace. And Yasher Allah is Israel in the ancient Paleo-Hebrew. It's Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 48. And it reads, "Therefore shalt thou serve thine enemies, which the Lord shall send against thee, in hunger and in thirst, and in nakedness, and in want of all things. And he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck, until he have destroyed thee." This is also Zephaniah 3 and 12. "I will also leave in the midst of thee an afflicted and poor people, and they shall trust in the name of the Lord." All right, now I want to go into a lesson through the Spirit based on what you just saw from that clip. And that was a individual that used to work at TMZ. His full name escapes me, but yeah, he mentioned the racism and then classism. And I want to touch that subject through the Spirit because it has a lot of relevance concerning prophecy, concerning the time that we're living in, and basically what Esau's doing. And we touch this subject often, is he's taking from his own people at this point. So it makes it look to the average person as if racism has taken a back seat, because now we're entering into a realm where Esau's including his own people in the food chain. All right, if that makes sense. All right, so I want to point something out. I want to bring out this article. All right, because in his mind, he believes that classism has become a bigger problem. And it is an issue because, again, you have this divide between the rich Jakes and the poor Jakes. And when I say Jake, I'm talking about Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans, West Indians, and Haitians. Jake is just short for Jacob. All right, so what you see is there's a bourgeoisie class or a elite class of so-called blacks, Hispanics, Native Americans. And they, in essence, kind of look down upon those who don't have the same thing that they have. So they've created a class within themselves. And this is what he's talking about. You know, he's mentioning these things in passing, but it's relevant. At the same time, prophecy is still taking place. All right, because this is not our rest. So I want to bring out these statistics because it shows the average household income compared to the average so-called white income. All right, just to give you a picture, because a lot of times guys like this, they see these images and they assume that, you know, we're farther along than we actually are. But when you look at the numbers, it brings you back to earth. All right, so it says this. Although Black and Hispanic Americans have accumulated more wealth in recent years, their median net worth still lags far behind that of white Americans. It says the net worth of the typical Black and Hispanic household in 2022 was $44,900. That's concerning the blacks, so-called, and about $61,600 respectively, and that's concerning the so-called Hispanics. Okay, so this is the average net worth. All right. When you factor in debt, bills, whatever the case may be, this is the average net worth. All right. Just to give you an idea, the average Negro, Latino, or Native American falls in this category. But oftentimes what Esau will do is he'll point out the exceptions to the average, and he'll put so much attention on them that our people will assume that we're somewhere that we're actually not. You know, social media is a very good vehicle for that because it allows people to believe something that's not grounded in reality. All right, real quick. It's like this is 2 Timothy chapter 3 and verse 1. This know also that in the last days perilous times shall come. For men shall be lovers of their own selves, covetous, boasters, proud, blasphemers, disobedient to parents, unthankful, unholy, without natural affection, truce breakers, false accusers, incontinent, fierce, despisers of those that are good. And a common theme that you see, especially amongst these rich Israelites, rich Jakes, you know, so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, the rich ones, they often bring up money whenever they're offended, you know, whenever they want to talk about what they feel is a measurement of success. They always bring up money, you know, and this goes into being lovers of themselves, boasters. All right, because again, the average income of Negro, Latinos, and Native Americans doesn't go above 61,000. That's average. And that's not just talking about what you make in a year. It's factoring in homes, cars, whatever debt, credit card, whatever the case. So this is the average. So what happens is you have rich Jakes, rich Israelites, all right, who basically boast over the rest of their own people, all right, which, you know, he kind of covered it. It's non-productive, but it shows you that this is not our rest. You know, you basically have so-called black and Hispanic capitalism. And what it is that they're no longer worried about the commonwealth. See, the difference between us and other nations of people is we don't have a commonwealth. We don't have a common place to go home to lean on. We have to depend on those who have afflicted us. All right. Well, the scriptures say the just will live by faith. All right. They will no longer stay or trust on those who have smote them. All right. This is Isaiah chapter 10 and verse 20. And it shall come to pass in that day that the remnant of Israel and such as are escaped of the house of Jacob shall no more again stay upon him that smote them, but shall stay upon the Lord, the Holy One of Yasharallah, in truth. So most of our people have put their stock and their confidence in Esau Edom, whether it's his government, whether it's his fiat currency. Their faith is tied to the system. Well, the Lord said that he would have a remnant, and their faith will be, they will trust in the Lord. All right. And I covered it, but let's get it again. Zephaniah chapter 3 and verse 12. I will also leave in the midst of thee an afflicted and poor people, and they shall trust in the name of the Lord. See, on average, Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans are afflicted and poor, but you have a remnant that are going to trust in the Heavenly Father. All right. The Lord's given them the ability to see past this system and to have a desire that exceeds this system. But what this guy touched on is two important things, because you still have racism. All right. Whether you believe that or not. And then you have growing a trend of classism. This is why you're starting to see average Edomites suffer, because at this point, their people have deemed them prey. You know, when you think about the 40s and the 50s, there was a common benefit for Edomites in Babylon the Great. All right. And Edomites, for those who may be watching for the first time, are the self-proclaimed white man. As a nation of people, their biblical nationality is Edom. And what you find is that as we get closer and closer to the end, they're losing more and more of their privileges. You know, there was a point where, you know, you would have to get on the sidewalk. I mean, you would have to get in the grass if they were walking on the sidewalk with you. You weren't allowed to look them in the eyes. You weren't allowed to go certain places. You know, they were allowed in rooms that you weren't allowed in. They had access to resources based off their nationality that you didn't have access to. And now in 2024, that has changed. And that's ultimately because this system is moving towards classism as well as racism. But classism is the new thing. So most people like this guy will see it and they'll think that, it's a bigger problem. But ultimately, it deals with Esau Edom and his desire being as hell and as death. All right, because at this point, he's not even good to his own people. All right, this is Habakkuk chapter 2 and 5. Yea, also, because he transgresseth by wine, he is a proud man, neither keepeth at home, who enlargeth his desire as hell, and is as death, and cannot be satisfied, but gathereth unto him all nations, and heapeth unto him all people. And now he's included his own people in that agenda. This is why you have a lot of Edomites, basically preparing themselves. You're going to have sedition. All right. And what is that? That's a violent attempt to overtake their own government. Why? Because they're recognizing that their government is taking from them, too. They didn't have a problem when it was just you Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans being robbed. But now that they're being added to the food chain, they're starting to revolt. They're starting to rebel. You saw that in January 6th. It's because there's an overwhelming understanding that they're losing those common privileges they once enjoyed. All right, this is 2nd Ezra chapter 15 and verse 16. I'm going to start at 14. Woe to the world and them that dwell therein, for the sword and their destruction draweth nigh. And one people shall stand up and fight against another, and swords in their hands. For there shall be sedition among men, and invading one another. They shall not regard their kings nor princes, and the course of their actions shall stand in their power. And it's beautiful, all right, because again, Esau, Edom, they're so fractured and splintered that they don't even see what's happening, all right? I'm talking about the average Edomite, the Joe Six-Packs. They don't really know what's going on. They know there's a problem with the government, but they don't really understand, according to prophecy, what's actually happening here. The Lord is systemically destroying this place. And we see that according to prophecy. And it's a beautiful thing because this guy, he spoke some truth in it, but you can tell that a lot of people just don't know what's going on. Because he's saying that classism is a bigger problem without realizing that this system is not going to be improved. It's not going to be healed. According to prophecy, it's going to be destroyed. All right. This is Jeremiah chapter 51. And I'm going to jump down to verse 9. We would have healed Babylon, but she is not healed. Forsake her, and let us go every one into his own country. For her judgment reacheth unto heaven, and is lifted up even to the skies. And this is why there's so many similarities between what happened in Rome and what's happening now. Because again, it all falls down to prophecy. Now, back in this article, you see the average household income for so-called Negroes is $44,900. So-called Hispanics is $61,600. Now, when you jump down here and look at the Edomites, it says this: even with these gains, their wealth remains only a fraction of that of white households, whose median wealth, now check this out, this is average. The average wealth was $285,000 last year, up 31% from 2019. Keep in mind, this is the average. Look at these numbers. Because when you look at the internet, our people will have you fooled into believing something that's just not realistic. It's not grounded in reality. This is what's actually happening. The average income, all right here, of Israelites, of Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, and then the average income of Edomites. Average. Just to give you an idea through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shema Shah of the reality. Because this guy's talking about classism being a bigger issue. But when you look at the numbers, it doesn't match. It doesn't make any sense. All right. It doesn't make any sense. And then when you look at this, right, it says Asian Americans had the highest median net worth at 536,000. Do you think that was a statistic in the 40s and 50s? No. No. And it shows you that the power is dwindling. And at this point, Esau is willing to sell his own people down the river to increase his own benefit, his own personal benefit. And I say him, I'm talking about the elites. So I want to grab this in Sirach. This is Ecclesiasticus chapter 14 and verse 5. And it reads, he that is evil to himself, to whom will he be good? He shall not take pleasure in his goods. There is none worse than he that envieth himself, and this is a recompense of his wickedness. Man, because you think about it, right? The average Edomite in the 40s and 50s was giving Jake hell. It wasn't the super rich ones that was on them postcards. It was the average Edomites, the Joe Six-Packs in the 40s and 50s that were catching Jake slipping. And now, you fast forward to 2024 and they're being afflicted by their own people. And this is why it says he that is evil to himself. If Esau is destroying his own commonwealth, what love do you think you're going to find in a man that has that kind of quality? He's evil to himself. This is why his people are putting all their chips on Trump saving them, because they recognize that whatever commonwealth they used to have is being taken from them. And then on the other end of that, you got guys like this who are pointing out that you have this rich class of Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans that aren't really in the business of helping their people as a whole. They may do a charity here and there, but nothing substantial. They're not pulling their money together to get actual resources. They do little charities here and there just to keep their name clean, and they continue to gather this wealth for themselves and to boast about it to the average Negro, Latino, and Native American. And this is why those two are going to perish lest they repent. It reminds me of Yahweh Shah saying it's easier for a camel to get into the eye of a needle than a rich man. Now, I wasn't talking about a literal needle and a camel. It was talking about a certain pathway into a city that was so narrow and low that the camel had to humble itself to get through it. And guys like the celebrity class of Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, most of them are not going to humble themselves because, again, the scriptures talk about that. This is Isaiah chapter 3. And I'm going to just jump down to 5. And the people shall be oppressed, everyone by another, and everyone by his neighbor. Yeah, when they hop on the net and they hop on these songs and call the average Negro, Latino, and Native American broke, knowing that our people on average are broke, that's basically a form of oppression of your own people. All right, continuing, it says, the child shall behave himself proudly against the ancient and the base against the honorable. And what Esau does is he gives the base more resources than the honorable. As the scriptures say, the rich sit in low place. And our people have confused money with power. And there is a difference. They may have power over the average Israelite, but they don't have power on the world stage. And this is why this guy talks about classism. And it's true. The rich on average of Jake, they don't really get involved with trying to do something real for us as a people. And it's because they're not meant to. They're not paid to do that. They're paid to keep Jake distracted for the most part. All right. So Lord willing, this was edifying. I saw that clip and it's a beautiful time through the spirit, because while he's pointing this out, it's being made obvious too that Esau, the elites of this society, are stealing from their own people, which is a sign that this place is going to be destroyed, man. All right. As a matter of fact, I'll end it with this. It's Matthew chapter 12 and 25. And Yahweh knew their thoughts and said unto them, every kingdom divided against itself is brought to desolation, and every city or house divided against itself shall not stand. And that's plain. And you just think about all the divisions, all the fractions, from the Russians against the Americans, those are still Edomites. The NATO countries against the Russians, those are still Edomites. the rich Edomites in America against the poor Edomites in America. All of these little fractures and breaks basically is a sign that this kingdom is not going to stand. All right, so Lord willing, this was edifying with that. I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rokah Kodash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, who are the elders of Yasher Allah, and a sincere salutation to all Yuakim, who are preaching this word and believing this word, and to the Akwath who are believing this word in all truth and in sincerity. Shalom.